Hi, and welcome to this PowerShell beginner project solution video. So in the last video, I went over 8 beginner PowerShell projects, and the first one on the list was the environment checker. So I'm going to start off with this one today. So I already have it built, so I can show you guys what it does. So I actually have it running in my task scheduler here, and I have it set to run every 5 minutes, and it verifies my test environment, and then it tells me if anything is down or not. So I'm going to go ahead and actually turn off one of my virtual machines, and I'm going to run this task and just show you guys what happens when that happens. So once the task is running, it actually checks my environment and then sends me an email saying that this machine is offline, and it tells me at what date it is offline. And now it actually does do some other things. So in 5 minutes, when it runs again, it will not resend me the same email, but it will send me an email tomorrow saying that this machine is still offline if it's still offline. And if it comes online, it will actually send me an email saying that it's come online. So it does track all those different changes. Now, since it's only a beginner project, I've kept it to simply a CSV file. So we're not using a database or anything like that, which that would be, I would say, more intermediate and advanced level, depending on how into it you really get into it. But we're going to be starting with the CSV file, and then eventually once we get into the intermediate and advanced projects, this is probably one that's going to keep following along, and we're going to upgrade the project as we go. So in the outline that I had given, it was pretty much just check to see if computers, which server or website is reachable by ping, and then log all the results and send email if any outages. So we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be doing a little bit extra. It's really just going to be doing these two things, but we're going to have intelligence in it so it doesn't just spam email people saying that servers are offline, because that would be kind of annoying. So what we're first going to want to do is, I'm in this folder here, and we are just going to create a script called environment checker.ps1. And we're going to go ahead and create another file called ncheckerlist.csv. And this is going to be our CSV file containing the server names. So what I'm going to first do is populate this CSV file with the server names that I have. So what we're going to first do is create some columns. So we're going to do server name, and we are going to go ahead and put in the server names that I have, which are going to be these two here. So we have JP Win10C, and then JP Hype 2019. So we have these two servers. Now we're going to start our environment checker. So what we're going to first do is we are going to go ahead and reference this environment checker list. So we're going to do server list file path, and we are going to set that to the file path, which for me is actually going to be C/users administrator desktop, then PS beginner projects, and environment checker list.csv. And we're just going to wrap that in double quotes. And then we're going to bring that in and call it server list. We're going to do an import CSV, and we're going to point our path to the server list file path. And if we run that, we are going to then see that we do get our server names. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to first check to see if we could successfully ping the two servers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a for each, and then we're going to do a for each server in server list. Now there is a connection, a commandlet for basically a ping in PowerShell. Now I have noticed that issues using the commandlet with PowerShell of 5. So there might be some issues there. It does work sometimes, but I've noticed more than not, I usually do have issues. So I am using PowerShell 7.2 currently. So let's do a test dash connection. And we are going to pass in our target name, which is going to be our server dot server name. Then we are going to go ahead and we are just going to put a count of 1. I only want to do 1 ping to the server, and let's just see what that gives us. All right, so as we can see, we ping the JP Win 10C, which is offline currently, and the JP Hype 2019, which is online, and it returns to me the IP address and the status of successful. So that is really good, but we don't really know what it was last time. So this is where we're going to go back into our CSV file, and we are going to go ahead and add a last status. And let's go back into our file here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to store this test connection in a variable called connection. And what I like to do as well is at the top here, before we grab the connection, is let's create a variable called server name. And we're going to store that using server.server name. And we're also going to store the last status using the server dot last status. Okay, perfect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a if connection, and we can see that it is a status. We're going to do if connection dot status is equal to success. We are going to do a write output of server name is online. And then we're going to have the else here. And we are going to set that to server is offline. All right, perfect. So now if we go ahead and run this here, we can see that we have JP10 WinC is offline, JP Hype 2019 is online. So we know that one is offline, one is online. Now we don't really know if the status again has changed because we aren't using that last status anywhere, nor are we updating the CSV. So what we're going to want to do is we are going to want to first update the last status at the end here. So what we're going to want to do is do a server dot last status is equal connection dot status. And then what we can do after the for each loop is, or actually what we need to do is before the for each loop, we're going to want to do a export equals, and then we're going to create a array list here. So we're going to create a system dot collections dot array list, and we're going to create that as an empty array list. Then after we set the status, we are going to go ahead and export dot add, and we are going to add that server, and we're just going to put our square bracket void here just to not have any output. And then what we're going to have here is just export is going to be piped to export CSV path. We're going to put in our server list file path. Our delimiter is going to be a comma, and then we're going to do a no type information. And then the import, we are also just going to specify our delimiter here. Perfect. So once we have this here, so right now we only have our server name and our last status. So if I reopen that, we can see that it's only the server names that are in there. And now if we run our code, it should actually input us our last status. So here we have last status. So now we have last status was destination host unreachable, and last status for the hype 2019 is success. So this is what we wanted to see, because we want to be able to compare the last status to what it is right now. So now what we're going to do here is so inside the first check here, so if the server is online, what should we check for? So what we're going to be checking for is going to be if the last status of the server was not online. So if the last status is not equal to success, then we are going to put in I'm going to erase that. So inside this if statement, we are going to go ahead and put that the server is now online. Otherwise, it's always been online, so we can just do a write output. Server name is still online. Take that out here. We can take this out actually as well. Perfect. So now if we run this here, we will see that the JP Hype 2019 is still online. And now if I go ahead and turn on my VM here to trigger this event of now being online, it should be coming up any moment now, and then I'll be running the code. All right, so it should be up now. So if I run this once again, still showing offline. Let me just run it once more. So here we have JP Win 10C is now online. JP Hype 2019 is still online. If we go into our checker, our CSV, we can now see that both are successful. So that is good. So now we know that our next thing that we want to do is, what if a server goes offline? We already know that we're going to get the notification that it's offline. But what we want to do is we want to know if it's already been offline, because we don't want to send an email or send an alert to the screen that it's offline every time that it's offline. It's kind of a lot to do. So what we're going to make sure of that is we only want it to send us an alert saying that's offline if the last status was a success. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a if last status is equal to success. We are going to then do the write output of the server is now offline. And then else we are going to write that the server is still offline. Because we know if it's not success, it was obviously a failed, so it is still offline, nothing has changed. So if we run the code again, we're going to see that they are both still online. Now, if I go ahead and turn off that virtual machine, and we run the code, we are now going to see that JP Win 10C is now offline. JP Hype 2019 is still online. And then if we run it again, we will see that JP Win 10C is still offline and JP Hype 2019 is still online. So no status has changed. Now, what we might want to do in this case, this is what I've thought of at this point, was now it's nice that we get the alert that once it's offline, but what if I want to know if it's been offline for a long period of time? Because I don't necessarily want to just get an alert saying that it's still offline, and neither do I want an alert saying that it's still online. So we already know that we're not really going to be doing anything if the server is still online. So that we're going to get rid of that else statement because we don't really care about that. But we do care for both cases of if it's offline, if it's newly offline or if it is still offline. So what we're going to want to do is check how long it's been offline for. Now, what I like to do is I actually like to add 2 columns to my end checker list here. So we have last status. I'm going to put in last check time and then down since. And at the same time, we are going to put last alert time or last down alert time. So these columns are going to be the last check time. So that's going to keep track of the previous time that we've checked. The down since is going to be the time that the server has been down since, the first time that it's been noticed that it was down. And then the last down alert will keep track of the last time that we sent an alert to the screen or by email of this server being offline. So we're going to save that. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to, of course, create these variables again here. So we're going to put a down since here. And we're going to do a server dot down since. And then we are also going to want to put a last down alert is going to be equal to the server last down alert. Okay, perfect. And then what we're going to want to do also is, because now we're going to be dealing with the date and time, we're going to want to get a date time, and we're going to do a get date for that. Okay, perfect. So that should all be good. So now when the server is online successfully, we're not going to be doing anything. We know that the server is online. That should be good for now. Now, once the server is offline for the first time, so the last time we see that it was a successful connection, so we know that it is now officially down. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a server dot down since is now going to be equal to date time. And then what we're also going to do is the server dot last down alert equals date time. All right, and then if the server is still online, so this is where we are going to want to pick how long we want these checks for. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pretend that the JP Win 10C had a successful ping last time. So let's go ahead and let's just check what this does for us. Okay, so we did get an error here. Last down alert time. Okay, last down alert time, and last down alert time. Okay, so I think that should be good. Let me just do success here once again. So let's just run this code here and let's see what it gives us. So if the JP Win 10C is now offline, and we see that we get a JP Win 10C destination host unreachable. The last check time, we don't have anything for it because we haven't set that yet, but we do know that it's been down since March 23rd at 8:57 p.m. and the last alert time was also March 23rd, 8:57 p.m. So let's go ahead and let's put in at the bottom here where we do the last server, the last status, we're gonna do the last check time equals date time. And that will automatically add that date time to every entry. So we're always updating that. We're always updating the status and we're always updating the date time. So once we have all of that, so currently we are going through each of our servers and then we are checking to see if the connection is up. If the connection is up and the last time it was not up, we are now saying that it is online. Otherwise, if it's down and it was up last time, we are saying that it is now offline. And if it was down last time, we are saying that it is still offline. So that should be pretty easy to follow along a little bit there. So now what we're going to want to do is if it was down the last time it's checked for, we're going to want to check how long it's been down for. And since when was the last alert? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a down for, and this is going to store the amount of time that it's been down for. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a $sign parentheses. We're going to be doing a get date, and then we're going to do a parameter of date. And for this, we are going to put date time, which is going to be the current time that the script is running. And we're going to do that minus the parentheses here. And we're going to do a get date date. And we're going to put in the down since. And we're going to put that for total days. It's still offline for down for days. And then we are also going to want to get since how much time has passed since we last alerted. So since last down alert is going to be equal to the $sign parentheses. And here we're going to be doing basically the same calculation here. The only thing is it's not going to be the down since, it's going to be the last down alert. And we are going to grab the total days here again for us. All right, and output, and we're just going to do another output. It has been since last down alert, days since last alert. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's run this now. we should see that, okay, so we see that it has been 0.002 days since the last alert, and JP Win 10C has been offline for 0.0 days because it's just been put offline. So what I'm actually going to do is just slightly manipulate this, and for our down since, I'm going to change the date from March 23rd to March 21st. And I'm also going to change the last alert time to March 22nd. So this will have been a couple days now. So now if we run this code, we see that has been 1 day since the last alert. JP Win 10C is still offline for 2.003 days. So we can see that it's been offline for a while. Now this is the time that we would want these alerts. I prefer them once a day. I don't want these alerts to be coming in every 5 minutes. If I get an alert every day saying that the machine is still offline, that's probably fine for me so I don't get spammed. But you can definitely do this as often as you really want. So what we're going to want to do is do an if statement. So once we get these two dates here, what we're going to do is an if, and then we're going to do a parentheses here. And we're going to do the down for. So we want the down for to at least be greater or equal to 1 day. So we only want to get alerted of a second time, at least if it's been 1 day that it's been down for. And we also want, since the last down alert, we only want every alert every day. So again, greater or equal to 1. And then we're going to have this if statement. I'm going to do that. So this will tell us if it's been alert. So this will be if it's greater than 1 day. So if we run this, we should get those same alerts, which that is perfectly fine. That's awesome. And then what we're going to want to do is at the same time, because this is alerting us, is we're going to do the server dot last down alert time equals date time. So if we run this now again, we will get the alert. And now if we run it one last time, we should not get any output here because it hasn't been, if we go back into our file, our last alert time is now today's date. Even though it's been down since the 21st, we just alerted the user on the panel. So we don't need to do anything. It just skips it. And now if we go ahead and do, that should actually be good. So the last alert time. So yes, that should be good. So now the only thing is, in theory at this point now, what we need to do is if it's a success, but it was not a success before, we do have to reset these values. So we need to do a server dot down since equals null. And then the server dot last down alert time is going to be null as well. Okay. And that's just to clear out those variables because we don't want them down if the server is actually up. We don't want to have those variables stored in there. So that should be good. So now this is a full script that is definitely seems to be working. So let me just test it one last time here. We should not get any output. Now, if I go ahead and turn on the VM, let me just turn that on. So it's just taking a little bit of time to turn on. All right, it is on. So now if I run this, so as we can see that the last time it was unreachable. Now if we run this, we have JP Win 10C is now online. We don't have any of those variables anymore, which is perfect. And if we run it again, they're both online still, so that is perfectly fine. And then if we turn off the VM and we run it again, we can see that JPWin 10C is now offline because it's now switched from online to offline. And now we get nothing because it has, the last alert time was a couple minutes ago, and it's been down since just the 23rd. So that is A-okay, everything is good. So now what we want to do is we want to add a little bit more functionality, because it's nice that we get these alerts on the screen, but what we really want is we want these emails. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the mail module that we have built on this channel for this video today. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing an import module, and we're going to be importing the module from C scripts send email mail module. Just make sure that works. Yes. All right, so now we have this mail module. Now I'm going to be putting a link in the description down below to the video where we have built this mail module. It is a very, very useful mail module that replaces the send mail message commandlet. Since that commandlet is not recommended to use by Microsoft, they have not replaced it themselves yet. That being said, it does still work, so you can use it, just not really recommended. It's not secure. But any other mail API you can definitely use in lieu of this. This is just simply going to be a full example that you can follow just using this channel. So let's go ahead and let's move on with the mail module here. So with the mail module, as we've known from the previous video, what we need is we need a mail account, a port, an SMTP server, a from address, and a to address. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a mail account, and I'm going to do a import CLI.xml so you guys don't see the password for it, and we're going to put the path of C scripts and email outlook.xml. Now, I cover this import -CLI.xml again in that mail module video. I also have a link to just the CLI.xml video in there as well for securely importing your passwords without putting them into plain text, which is going to be very useful if you are putting scripts on servers and you don't want people to have access to those passwords. So we're going to have the mail port here, and our mail port here is going to be 587 for Outlook. And then our mail SMTP server is going to be smtp-mail.outlook.com. Our mail from is actually going to be our mail account .username. And then our mail to, I'm going to be sending that to JackedProgrammer@outlook.com. Now, I do have my contact info on my YouTube channel. Do not send it to the test JackedProgrammer@outlook.com. I do mass delete emails on that account because it's the one I test with all the time. All right, so once we have all these variables in here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and create another variable. And that variable is going to be just here, and we're going to name it alert. We are going to set it by default to false in every situation. And then what we're going to want to do is now that these server, so once the server is online, what we're going to want to do is we're going to do an alert equals true. And then the server is now offline. We are going to do alert equals true. Whoops. Equals true. And And then we are also going to do that the alert equals true here. So this is just going to tell me where I need to put the alerts, and this is the only time that the alerts gets triggered. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called subject every time that we have an alert, and we're going to put that subject to be pretty obvious here. So we're going to put server name is now online and exclamation mark just to make it slightly different from the one that I already have running. And we're going to have a body. Now I'm going to make my body an HTML body. You guys don't have to do this. I just like it because it does look a lot nicer at the end of the day in your email. So for the body, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pair of H2 tags. So we're going to do an open and close H2 tag. And we're just going to put in here server name is now online. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do another body, and we're going to do a plus equals. And we're going to do a pair of paragraph tags. And we're going to do a server name is now online at date time. Okay, perfect. And we are going to go ahead and copy that subject and body to the now offline, but we're just going to change the wording for now offline, now offline, now offline, and same thing for this here. But this one we're going to do is still offline for down for days. And we are going to say is still offline. Actually has been offline for down for days. And we are going to go ahead and has been offline. And we're going to do a since here. We're going to do a down since. So that will tell us how long it's been down for. Now at the bottom here, so before we update our server object, what we're going to do is we're going to do a if alert. So if the alert variable is true, what we're going to do is we're going to do a send-mailmessage from. We are going to put our mail from R2. We are going to put our mail to SMTP server. We're going to put our mail SMTP. Our port, we're going to put our mail port. Our subject is going to be subject. Body is going to be body. And we're going to make sure that we do the body as HTML. And then the credential for that is we're going to pass in the mail account. So that should work. So now if I trigger this, I don't believe that anything has changed. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our virtual machine here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and disable this task here. And let us just delete all of these. So the virtual machine is still booting up here. So let's run this code. So we have JPWin10C is now online. We get the output of an email being sent. So here we have it. JPWin10C is now online at 9:21. The server time, unfortunately, is slightly off. I have not fixed that here on my end, but you can see that it is now online. And now if we go ahead and we just, now it's online. So now let's go ahead and let's turn it back offline. And let's run this code again. We're going to get another email saying that it's offline. We should see that very, very shortly. So here it is now offline. And now if I run the code again, we should not get any alerts because it has still been offline. There's nothing that's changed. And now if we go ahead and just change the down since, so let's change the down since the 21st. And let's do the last alert time since the 21st as well. And we go ahead and save that. And we run our code once again. We see that it's been triggered here. And we get that JP Win 10C has been offline for a bunch of days. What I would probably do in this case, instead of using total days, is use just days. That would be probably a better solution and just a little bit cleaner. So if we go ahead and just change that last alert time to 1 day previous and run that again. Has been offline for just 2 days and has been offline since the 21st. So everything like that is seeming to be perfectly working. So everything is working here now. So what I would want to do at this point, once I have this environment checker and it's running off of a file, so I can always add more servers to this or remove servers as it sees fit. The only thing that you would really have to do is just put in the server name. You don't even need to put the quotes. So let's just say it as if we didn't even have the JP hype. We go ahead, we put that in there. It's going to go ahead, check the file and check it. And now it's going to see, oh, we have a new server added in, JP hype. It's now online. It's going to send you an email for that actually. So, which is pretty cool. I find that's a pretty useful. So any servers that you add will automatically send you an email. So just wait for that email to come in. And if it has not come in, we need to go and see why that is the case. Seems like it's actually still running here, so it might just be taking a little bit of time. Not sure if my PowerShell window is actually frozen or not here. Seems that it's encountered some issues. So I'll just run that again here. JP Hype is now online, and there you go. It did send the email this time, and we get that JP Hype is now online. So it just seemed to have been a little bit of a Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Code bug there that had happened. I've noticed that happens sometimes with PowerShell. The only thing that you need to do is just force quit your script with Control C and then launch it again, and it seems to work just fine. So as you can see, we added a server. It's now online. If we run it again, or if we just look at the file, we can actually see that it automatically added those values for us. We can run it again, and we see everything is good. If I turn on my other virtual machine, and we will just do one last little test here. Just waiting for that VM to start. Now, what I would do while we're just waiting for that VM to start here, what I would like to do is I really like to set these as scheduled tasks. So what we can do here is we can just delete this one. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create the task because the VM just came online. But what we're going to do is we're going to run the script as a task just so you guys can see what happens. So make sure that if you are using that import CliXML, make sure that you're running as the user that has access to that CliXML on the machine that has access to that CliXML, because it is hashed as the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do an end checker here as the name, and we're going to do run whether the user is logged in or not, because we want it to run every 5 minutes. I don't want it to check to make sure that I'm logged in. I want it to run regardless. And then the triggers here, we're going to put daily, and you can set that. You can leave this really almost by default, but we're going to repeat the task, and we're going to repeat the task every 5 minutes. Now you can do this every 2 minutes. It doesn't really matter as long as you give it enough time to actually execute completely, and then it can start back up. And then, so that should be good. And then the actions here, what I like to do is I just like to browse for the script. So what we have here is PS Beginner Projects, Environment Checker, and then what you would put in front here is just PWSH space dash file space. Now this is going to run PowerShell 7. If you are running PowerShell just 5, you would just do PowerShell here. But because we coded it in PowerShell 7, we've tested it with PowerShell 7. I'm going to run it with PowerShell 7, which is the PWSH-file. We're going to click OK. It's going to give you it appears as though arguments have been included in the program text box. Do you want to run the following program? PWSH with the following arguments. Click on yes. Click on OK. It'll prompt you for the password to the account that you've selected. And now if we go ahead and we click on run, we should see a JP Win 10C is now online. So everything is working correctly. So that would be an environment checker. Now, the way that I've made it with the email might not be super beginner, but until the part of the email, it should have been fairly easy. There was no real new commandlets, some very basic logic checking. So if you weren't able to get it, just maybe go back, look over the video, and see maybe what parts you did not understand. If you guys have any questions, you guys want me to clarify anything, let me know down below in the comments, and I will try to clarify things up for you guys. But this should be the environment checker. This could work in a production environment. It's not super intrusive, so you guys can definitely go ahead and use this. This will be in my GitHub right after this video release, so we can actually change that to server name because we actually assign it. So that should be it. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the service checker. So that one, I'm seeing that this video is actually running quite long. I might start splitting these up a little bit because I don't like creating long videos. I find that I kind of lose interest in long videos. So I might split these up a little bit because these definitely do take almost an hour of time to explain. So let me know if you guys have any comments or questions that you guys would like to see a video on down below in the comments. Hit that like button, that subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.